Hey, this is Eric at TechnoRV, and in this video I'm going to compare the specs and features of the TST tire pressure monitoring system compared to the TireMinder tire pressure monitoring system. Well, we just left the 2019 Tampa RV show, and these are the models that were being displayed. It's the TST 507 and the TireMinder A1A. So you may have heard of the TST or TireMinder, and you may be asking yourself, why do you need a tire pressure monitoring system? Well, the leading indicator of a blowout is low tire pressure and high temperature. And a tire pressure monitoring system is going to monitor these 2 points of data, and it's going to alarm you should you get out of spec as it relates to what you should be on those 2 points of data. So specifically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the facts about the specs and features of these two, and just line by line, let's just go through them. So at the end of this, you'll have a real clear indication of which system that you feel like would be best for you. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to talk about the system that I use and specifically why. So I've got my clipboard here, and everything that I'm going to give you right here is straight off the website or owner's manuals from either TST or TireMinder. And so let's just go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want to cover is just monitor size. The TST tire pressure monitoring system here is 2.4 inches tall this way and 4.5 inches long. The TireMinder kind of has a different configuration because TST is more in landscape mode, and TireMinder is more in portrait mode. So on the TireMinder, you've got 2.4 inches this way and 4.1 inches tall. So the TST's just a little bit bigger, but both of them seem to have a screen size that is totally acceptable. The monitor power, they both have a rechargeable battery in them, and in general, you can get, say, 2 to 4 weeks on average off of one charge. And the reason that is because you can get about 16 to 20 hours, say, of just straight drive time. And generally people may drive for, 4, 5, 6 hours, and then they may stop for a week. So the weeks, that may vary, but the hours, if you just turn it on and left it on, you're talking about 16 to 20 hours. They both are charged with a USB charger that has also a 12 volt cigarette lighter style charger that comes with it. And they both just have an on and off type switch to turn the unit on and to turn the unit off. So that's real simple. The color, as it relates to these two models, this is where things start to get a little bit different between these two. The TST model is actually the only system on the market that offers a color monitor. So the TST offers a color monitor and a black and white monitor as well. And then the TireMinder just offers a black and white monitor. As it relates to the antennas on these, the TST just has a short little stubby antenna here on the top, and the TireMinder has like a pull-out, it's a 9-inch like pull-out type antenna, and it is designed according to the TireMinder handbook that does need to be pulled out and fully extended while driving down the road. So both systems operate off of a radio signal, and both systems include what's called a signal repeater. So they have antennas on them, and that's all well and good, but they both come with what's called a signal repeater. They just take 12 volt power, and once you give it 12 volt power, it boosts the signal between the sensors that are on the valve stems of each tire forward towards the monitor. So both of them have that. They're both included in the system. And yes, if you get one of these systems, you do need to install the repeater, no matter how large or small that your rig may be. Another feature that I want to talk about is the information that you actually see on the screen as you're going down the road. So you'll have the monitor with you in your RV or truck, whatever you're in. And so at a quick glance, you can look at the monitor. So with the TST model, it auto scrolls. This means there will be a blinking tire, and whatever tire is blinking, it'll display your PSI and your temperature of that tire position all on the same screen. 5 seconds later, it'll move to the next tire, and it just auto scrolls continuously. So always at a quick glance, you can look over there and see what your tires are doing. As you go down the road, they'll heat up, your PSI will go up. These are the characteristics that you'll be able to see in real time on the TST system. TireMinder takes a little different approach on this in that they only show PSI on the screen. So they don't show both points of data. While it is monitoring both points of data, it only shows one point of data at a time. And if you want to see the other point of data, you need to reach up and hit a button on the monitor for it to move to the next point of data. And then if you want to see the next tire, you need to hit another button to go to, say, PSI. Hit a button to go to temperature. So that part of it for the TireMinder is a little more awkward because you're actually having to manually move between the points of data and your tires, whereas with the TST, again, at a quick glance, it's always auto-scrolling. You can always see that information all on the same screen. The other thing is that with the TireMinder, when you turn it on, after about, say, 8 to 10 seconds, it goes into really just like a sleep mode. So really, while you're going down the road, you don't see any information on the screen. You don't see PSI or temperature. Now, again, if you want to see it, as I've already stated, you hit a button and then the screen will kind of light up and show you, say, PSI. If you want to see the next one, you hit that and keep moving forward. So again, while going down the road, if you look over at the TireMinder at a quick glance, then you see no data at all unless you hit one of the buttons. On the TST, it auto scrolls and you'll always see the information. And I think that's an important point to make here. Now, both systems will alarm you if you have a low PSI condition, a high temperature condition. So even with the TireMinder, even though it goes into that sleep mode and you really can't see anything just looking over at it, still, if you had a rapid pressure release, high temperature, it would alarm you of that, and so would the TST. So as it relates to alarming, they both have an audible alarm, and they both have like a light that'll flash. Now, to silence the alarm, if you ever go into alarm, you just hit any button on the front of either unit and it'll silence the audible alarm, but the light will continue to flash until you resolve whatever the issue is. One more point, that when you go into alarm, both of the systems, when you go into alarm, when you look, the tire that's in alarm will be flashing, and then on the TST system, the point of data that is in alarm will be flashing as well. And then on the TireMinder, the point of data that is in alarm will just be on the screen. So let's talk about available tire positions. How many tires can you actually program into these systems? So on the TST, you can put 32 tire positions on kind of the opening screen there. So really as many as you want. Now, TST also has the availability to add up to 4 different trailers. So let's say you have a towable and then you want to tow a trailer or something else. You can get sensors for all of those, and the TST system will intuitively know which of those you're actually towing. So if you come in your say towable RV, drop it off, pick up a trailer and drive off, the monitor will actually know, say, hey, this was dropped off, now I need to start monitoring this trailer right here. So that's kind of a nice feature. On the TireMinder, it can monitor up to 22 tire positions, and it does not have the availability to do multiple trailers. So let's just talk about operating PSI, what levels that it can handle. The TST can handle from 0 PSI to 218 PSI. The TireMinder does from 0 PSI to 232 PSI. So the TireMinder has a little bit more of a range there. However, they're both totally acceptable because, you know, obviously you get into the 200s and there's not going to be a tire that would have a cold tire pressure of that amount that's going to be on an RV. And even if you have a condition that your tire's heating up, your pressure's going up, you're going to be alarmed well before you get to that point so that you can get off the road. So they're both totally acceptable on the PSI range. The operating temperature range for the TST is from -4 degrees Fahrenheit to 176 degrees Fahrenheit. And the TireMinder operating temperature is from -4 degrees to 185 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, both of them have very acceptable operating temperatures. And now this isn't the temperature at which the system can be go into alarm for. This is just what type of condition can, say, the sensors and the monitor actually operate in. The accuracy of these two systems as it relates to pressure and temperature, for the TST, it's plus or minus 3 PSI and plus or minus 3 degrees Fahrenheit. The TireMinder on the PSI side is plus or minus 2.7% for the TireMinder and plus or minus 6 degrees Fahrenheit for the TireMinder. So with a tire pressure monitoring system, you're going to set up parameters around what the cold tire pressure should be, so that if you have like a slow condition that's like a slow leak or something like that, and it gets outside of that parameter, that you'll be alarmed. So these systems work a little bit differently on that. The TST allows you to manually set what you want that parameter to be. Now, it's recommended that you set it somewhere around 10% below what the cold tire pressure is supposed to be, and about 20 to 25% above what the cold tire pressure should be. So you can manually adjust that with the TST system. On the TireMinder, you actually cannot manually adjust that. You actually put what your cold tire pressure is, and then it sets the parameters for you, and it sets it at 15% below and 20% above whatever the cold tire pressure is that you put in. So if you were out in the middle of the desert in the middle of the summer and your tires were heating up, and let's say 20% above cold tire pressure was a normal condition because the ambient temperature was so high that it was driving your PSI to that level, you would go into alarm on the TireMinder, whereas with the TST, you could actually just adjust that up by a few percentage points so that you wouldn't go into alarm for a normal condition. As it relates to temperature, the same thing on the TST. You can manually set what you want to be alarmed at. Now the idea here is that a tire can start to break down at around 200 degrees plus, and so you want to be alarmed before that. So with the TST system, it comes automatically set at 158 degrees, but you can adjust that. So if you want to adjust that higher, adjust that lower, you can make that manual adjustment on the TST. On the TireMinder, you cannot make a manual adjustment. It comes preset at 167 degrees, and you cannot make an adjustment on that. So two different thoughts from two different companies. TST allows you to make those manual adjustments, and TireMinder presets them, and then that's just kind of the end of it. There is a feature that both of these systems have to where you can basically park sensors that you have programmed into the monitor. So let's say you've got an RV with a tow vehicle, and let's say that you don't have your tow vehicle with you and you're just driving in your RV, that you can, on the TST, there's just two buttons that you hit and it'll basically drop off that tow vehicle. Or you could drop off the RV if you wanted the unit to just be in your tow vehicle while you drive around. And so the TireMinder also has that feature. Now it's more of a programming thing with the TireMinder as opposed to with the TST. There's just two buttons you hit and it just does it. So they both do it. With the TST, it's just a little easier. So let's talk about programming the sensors into the monitor. So when you get this system, you're going to need to program each sensor into a particular tire position on the monitor. And they're both easy. And the difference is with the TST, you can actually program everything just at like a table. Whereas the TireMinder, you have to be at the tire position in order to program that sensor into the monitor. You know, a lot of RVers, you may order a system, get it, and maybe your RV is in storage or something. You don't have your RV with you, but you want to go ahead and program the system. With the TST, you can go ahead and do that. You can just program it right there, and then when you get to your RV, you just put the sensors on the appropriate position. With the TireMinder, you can't do that. You need to be at the tire position in order to program the sensors into the monitor. So let's talk about sensor options. So we already know the idea here. You're going to have a sensor on each valve stem, and then of course that sensor is going to broadcast forward to the monitor your temperature and your PSI. And so with the TST system, you actually have two options. One is what's called a cap sensor here, and it's just a low profile cap that would go onto the valve stem. Also offers what's called a flow-through sensor, and this is a sensor that would allow you to air up your tire through the sensor without taking it off of the valve stem. And so that's pretty nice to have the availability from TST to have a choice, and you can mix and match these. So you could put, say, a flow-through sensor on your RV or truck or whatever, and then put these on like a tow vehicle or something like that. So that's pretty nice. The TireMinder has a cap sensor that they have available, and that is the only option. So again, with the TST, you get an option of cap and flow through. You can mix and match them. With the TireMinder, you just have the cap sensor. Now, all of these sensors have anti-theft features to keep someone from just walking up and taking them off of your valve stem. So on the TST, you have basically a little tool that you use with the cap sensor to put it on your valve stem, and then if somebody tries to take it off, it will just spin. So that is the anti-theft feature for the TST cap sensor. The anti-theft feature for the flow-through sensor is that you would have a brass nut that you would put onto the valve stem first. Then you would put this onto the valve stem after the nut, and then there's going to be a tool that you actually tighten and lock the sensor onto the valve stem. The TireMinder comes with a tool as well, and it works similar to what the flow-through sensor does for the TST. You'll have a little nut that you'll put onto the valve stem. You'll put this on after there, and then this tool will allow you to lock that nut up against the sensor to keep someone from just unscrewing it off your valve stem. So both of them have those anti-theft features. That you don't have to use the anti-theft features if you don't want them, but they do come with them to prevent theft. So let's talk about the weights of these sensors. Now, the sensors for the TST, the sensor for the TireMinder, they're all less than an ounce. So they're not going to affect any balancing of your tires, so there's nothing to be concerned at as it relates to that. But specifically, the flow-through sensor for the TST system is about 17 grams. The cap sensor for the TST system is about 15.4 grams. And the cap sensor for the TireMinder is about 14 grams. So again, all of them less than an ounce, and no issues as it relates to weight and your tires. I will say that the flow-through sensor that you can get with the TST system, you do need to put these on metal valve stems. And that's really just because of the extra length. The flow-through sensor is about 2 inches, whereas the cap sensor is about an inch tall. So if you use the flow-through sensor, just make sure you use a metal valve stem. And if you have rubber valve stems, then you can use the cap sensor from the TST and also the TireMinder. All of the sensors come with user replaceable batteries. This is a very nice feature. When tire pressure monitoring systems came out, they used to have these sealed sensors and you couldn't replace the batteries in them. So TST and TireMinder both have user replaceable batteries. The batteries last about a year under normal use, and it takes a 1632, like just a little watch battery, and changing out the batteries in these is very easy. So both of these companies have it together as it relates to being able to replace these batteries yourself. So when you get your systems, the TST sensors will have those 1632 batteries already installed in them. On the TireMinder system, when you get them, they send you the batteries, but they're not in the sensors. So when you get them, you'll actually need to install those batteries first before you start programming them. So as it relates to mounting options for these units, the TST system comes with two mounting options. One of them is this suction cup mount here, and the system also comes with a dash pad here if you want to mount this on the dash. With the TireMinder, you get this suction cup mount here if you want to mount it onto a window, and it does not come with a like a dash type mount. So with the TireMinder, you just get the suction cup mount. With the TST, you get a dash mount and a suction cup mount. So what about the warranties for these two systems? So with the TST, they have a 3-year warranty. This is a manufacturer's warranty. If you have an issue, then you can contact whoever you purchased it from or the manufacturer, and if there's anything wrong with it within 3 years, they'll take care of it. The TireMinder has a 1-year warranty, and kind of the same thing. If you have any issues within that 1 year, you can contact whoever you purchased it from or TireMinder directly to get your warranty work done or to get something exchanged. So I know that was a lot of information, but that's the facts on both sides as it relates to TST and TireMinder. Now, I'm a full-time RVer and the owner of Techno RV. I travel a lot in my RV, and I do have a preference between these two systems. I personally use the TST tire pressure monitoring system here. Specifically, the reasons are I like the color monitor better than I like the black and white monitor, and the TireMinder just doesn't offer a color monitor. Mainly, the fact that TST displays PSI and temperature on the same screen and auto scroll, so at a quick glance I can see what's going on with my tires, to me is the game changer as it relates to both of these systems. The TireMinder goes into sleep mode. You see no information while you're going down the road. With TST, I can always peek over there and see what's going on. I start to understand the characteristics of my tires. For example, my inner duals run hotter than my outside duals. I can tell if the sun's coming in on this side. I've got higher PSI. Just all those things that happen while you're going down the road. You start to learn those characteristics about your tires, and I like knowing that as well. I don't have to reach up and hit buttons to scroll through this information. It's auto scrolling, and with the TireMinder, literally if I wanted to see information, I would be driving trying to hit buttons, and that's not something I'm interested in doing. I certainly love the smaller antenna on the TST versus the big 9-inch antenna here on the TireMinder. I don't feel like that's a good solution for an antenna for a system like this, and the stubby antenna here to me is much better. The warranty, obviously a 3-year warranty versus a 1-year warranty is a big deal for me and any user, and the fact that I have the option to have a flow-through sensor, because currently I'm in a motorhome and tow a Jeep, and I use the flow-through sensors on my motorhome and the cap sensors on my Jeep. These are on my Jeep because they're a little bit lower profile. I love the idea of being able to put a little air in my tires on my RV without taking those off, and that option is just not available with the TireMinder. So again, I personally choose the TST. And the TST is also the system that we sell at technorv.com. So if you're interested in a TST system, then go to technorv.com and you can get more information about them there. You can always call us or chat with us if you ever have any questions. If after watching this video you're more interested in the TireMinder, then you can certainly find retail outlets out there to get one of those units as well. I hope this has been helpful. And I hope that everybody out there gets a tire pressure monitoring system. I totally believe in them, that it's a must-have if you're an RVer. So safe travels.